presented by the 2015 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Welcome to Toronto. It is open-air baseball tonight at Rogers Center. Blue Jays wrapping up their 10-game homestand. It's been a very good homestand to this point. Paul Molitor and the Minnesota Twins are really struggling. They've hit 161 in this series, 15 hits in the 3 games to this point, and they've lost all 3 games. Just take a look at the lineup for Molitor's Twins. Dozier, Mauer, top of the order, then Torrey Hunter. Back in the lineup, he did not play last night. He's got good numbers against the Blue Jays for his career. This will be his 119th game against the Jays. Aaron Hicks swinging a hot bat. The young center fielder starting to establish himself in this Twins lineup. Burley is always a quick worker. He is set. Here's the first pitch of the game. Outside, Burley. 11 wins so far this season.
22nd start of the season, trying to sweep the Twins here. He comes in here a hot pitcher. He's won 6 out of his last 7 starts. Saw that earned run average very quickly at 3.32. That's currently his 3rd best ERA of his career, and it's good for 10th in the American League.
There he finds that strike zone. Brian Dozier, he's had just 5 hits in his last 9 games. He's at 132 over that stretch. And there's a good changeup from Burley. Right back in at 2-2.
Looked like Dozier started to come out of it a little bit last night. Hit a couple of balls hard. He was 0 for 5 last night.
Pops this one up. Burley points to it. Donaldson comes down from third. He's there, and Dozier's retired. Defensively, when Burley's on the mound, you know the ball's going to be put in play, so everybody on the field is on their toes. Revere, Pilar, and Bautista. Ben Revere caught the line drive to end the game last night. Donaldson, Tulowitzki, Goins, and Smoke. This is a good interior defense for the Blue Jays, and Burley and Navarro have teamed up well over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, you're going to have a good inner defense with Mark Burley, who pitches to contact. And the guy behind the plate, Leonard Navarro, will get his 20th start. He's going to catch today because the next 2 days are the knuckleballer, and then the day game after night game in New York is David Price. So Russell Martin will get those, and that's why we're seeing Leonard Navarro tonight catching Burley.
Joe Mauer with a 1-1 count. Ground ball, Goins to his left. 2 up, 2 down for Burley.
Well, we told you that he's coming in here a hot pitcher. This is what he has done over his last 11 starts. His ERA is under 2. He has thrown 11 double plays in the whip. He's just throwing a lot of strikes, pounding the strike zone, using all of his pitches, and working very quickly. You can see he's only averaging about 13 pitches per inning.
Torrey Hunter has more at-bats than anybody against Burley except Michael Kadire. Of course, Kadire and Hunter were teammates with the Twins. Hunter has 97 at-bats against Burley. No secrets between these two. Tulowitzki always throws on the run. How about a quick inning for Mark Burley? Just 10 pitches and Burley retires the side in order. A pop-up and a couple of grounders. play the Minnesota Twins. The Blue Jays have never swept the Twins in a 4-game series. Tulowitzki, then Donaldson, Josh Donaldson in the 2 spot. Boy, he's had a big homestand. 12 hits, 5 of those hits have left the ballpark. He's driven in 12 runs, and Edwin Encarnacion is really starting to heat up. 8-game hit streak, 11 for 28, 3 extra base hits, and 4 RBIs for Double E, who's the DH tonight.
Starting to drive the ball with authority. A 3-run home run last night, a good sign for him. This is 27-year-old Kyle Gibson. Will get ready for his 22nd start of the season. 8-8 with a 337 earned run average. Had a nice bounce back game in his last outing after 2 rough starts. 7 innings, 2 earned runs, and lowering his ERA to that 3.37. That's just outside the top 10 in the American League.
Good young pitcher.
Sinker, slider, changeup combination you will see tonight from him.
He is 6'6". It's a lot of downward action on that fastball. There's a fastball in there for a strike. Troy Tulowitzki is making his 8th start. The Blue Jays are 7-0 when Tulowitzki starts. For the season, batting just a tick under 300. Tulowitzki's having a little bit of an adjustment period, facing some pitchers he's not that familiar with.
Yeah, he kept looking for the breaking ball from the Minnesota Twins in last night, and they kept pumping the fastball in there. He said he was telling me today that he was a little bit surprised by all the fastballs that he got.
Gets a fastball there. It's a good sinker, and it's tapped foul up the third baseline.
Could that be because of the guys hitting behind him?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Phil Hughes, the starter, knows all about this potent lineup. Donaldson is behind Tulowitzki. So, yeah, it might be a different case. When Tulowitzki was in the Colorado lineup, he was the guy everybody focused on. Coming in. Another good sinker, beaten foul right at home plate.
So they might pitch him just a little bit differently. If you are the guy that they're concentrating on, you might see more breaking balls, but hitting leadoff for the Blue Jays, he's seen a lot of fastballs.
Yeah, he sure is, and I think he'll pick up on that. He's a very smart hitter, and he just felt like he had taken some good hacks at that high fastball and thought he was going to get more breaking balls. That might have been a changeup with late movement down and in. 1 down. Josh Donaldson has been on fire, having one of the best seasons of his career. He tied his career high with 29 home runs, and if you take his numbers and project them out for a full season, they're impressive.
Yeah, those are crazy numbers. 292 batting average and 43 home runs, which would be a career high. And how about the RBIs hitting out of that number 2 spot? 119 RBI projection. Definitely MVP type of numbers.
Donaldson is fit right in with this ball club. It didn't take him long to get acclimated to his new surroundings. 29 homers and 80 RBIs for Donaldson. Gibson's zeroed in on the bottom of that strike zone early in this game.
You know, I think all you have to know about Josh Donaldson is when we were talking to him at the end of the game yesterday, Hazel was talking to him about his home run and his walk his first 2 times up, but he wanted to talk about, yeah, I also struck out 3 times last night. That's just the kind of guy that he is. You know, he's not going to focus on all the great things. He's that, okay, how can I make myself better? And he surely wasn't real happy about the 3 punch-outs last night.
At the end of the game, 3 strikeouts in a row, and that was the last thing on his mind. He's trying to make some adjustments after those 3 at-bats. 1-2. Boy, that is a dive-bombing fastball. Bautista right behind Donaldson. Bautista hit the grand slam in the second that busted the game wide open. That was last night. You see, the fastball will be 94 with good movement. And that changeup, you throw 80s, middle 80s, 85, 86, but it still has the same type of movement.
Throwing the changeup just a little bit more this season than he did last year.
A cutter in the dirt. Donaldson, as he's done all season long, just won't chase many bad pitches. That is so good, top of the order, where the first and second guys take a lot of pitches. By the time Bautista gets to the plate, he's seen Gibson. He's seen what he's featuring on a given night. Donaldson works the walk from Gibson. A one-out walk. Defensively, the Twins have mixed and matched throughout this series. Eddie Rosario's back in left field as Hunter wasn't in the game last night. Aaron Hicks has had a good season defensively in center. Poof and Escobar on the left side of the infield. Dozier and Mauer on the right side. And Kurt Suzuki got last night's game off. He's back in there for Gibson tonight.
Yeah, one thing that we have seen is this team can play outfield, and the guy in center field I think is going to be a really good player. He's played 56 games in center field. He doesn't have an error.
Donaldson picks the pocket of Suzuki and Gibson. Suzuki has caught just 6 of 55 base stealers this season. And it's not all his fault. Look at the walking lead from Donaldson.
You know, that's just doing your homework and being prepared when you're on first base against a pitcher facing him for the first time in a ball game. He knew that he was slow to home plate, so Donaldson got that walking lead, and Suzuki had no chance.
Bautista battles that sinker down and in. The Blue Jays this season have scored 64 runs in the first inning, and that might sound like a lot, but they have a -16 run differential in the first. They've given up 80 runs in the first opposed to scoring 64. Well, that fastball's got a lot of great movement, and you see that downward plane really challenging for these hitters.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the hitters try to adjust to that. They're seeing that that thing is really falling off the table, and it's hard. We've seen some 93s and some 94s, and Blue Jays do a good job of passing along that information to the batters behind them. And see if they can lay off of that pitch.
There's the changeup at 86. Good differential. 8-9 miles an hour difference in velocity between the changeup and the sinker. So Bautista with a 2-2 count. He always sees a lot of pitches. More trouble on deck for the Twins. Encarnacion hit a 3-run home run last night in the 4th. Bautista trying to talk himself into staying back. Runs the count to 3-2. One out, no score. We're in the bottom of the first. Bautista hits it high and deep to center. Hicks has room. Donaldson is tagging at second. He breaks and will get to third. Standing up as the ball's cut off. Bautista drove it deep to center. Edwin Encarnacion. We mentioned his 3-run home run. It was number 20 on the season, and it was a big one.
It was a bomb. It was the difference in the ball game for the Blue Jays. Looked like he took out the B and Budweiser there out in center field. That's how you hit a 2-0 pitch. Count was 2-0, and they challenged it with a fastball. He went out there and got it. I asked him today if he got all that when he just kind of smiled the way Edwin does. He said, I got it. 470 plus feet.
So Encarnacion now has 20. They're going to appeal at second that Donaldson left early. And the first base umpire, Tim Timmons, that's his responsibility as the umpires rotate on the ball hit to center. Timmons comes over towards second to watch the base runner tagging.
Pretty easy play right there. Foot was still on the base. Plays right in front of Josh.
Encarnacion. We mentioned his 20th home run last night. The Blue Jays are the only team in the majors with 3 players with 20 or more home runs. Donaldson with 29, Bautista 24, and now Edwin has 20.
It's a tough lineup to go through. Lots of power.
Inside.
You know, I was watching Josh Donaldson tag up on that long fly ball, and you might say, well, what's the big deal about tagging up? Well, we've also talked about that sinker, as you see Encarnacion with 470-foot home run. That sinker is really dive bombing, the way you described it. That could be a wild pitch and a run opportunity right there.
There it is. Ball hit the plate, and Suzuki was able to glove it, so Donaldson stays put at third. But you're right. Every time you get a chance to pick up an extra base, you take advantage of it.
Especially when a guy is throwing this hard. It's a good play by Suzuki to save a run. Throwing this hard and with that kind of movement, you get to third base, you just have so many different ways to score.
Base hit. Fair ball just inside the line. Donaldson will jog in. Encarnacion is headed for second. Here's the throw. It's wide, and he's in there safe. Edwin Encarnacion starting things early tonight. Blue Jays break out on top 1-0.
Got enough of the plate where he could stay back, look like an off-speed pitch. He got the ball out in front and yanks it down the left field line. Donaldson's going to score. Rosario with 6 outfield assists, had time, but he was off target. And no chance for Dozier to apply the tag, and the Blue Jays jump ahead.
Donaldson with another run scored. He walked, stole second, moved to third on the fly ball to center, and scored on the double. Gianni Navarro in the 5th spot tonight. Donaldson has scored 78 runs now. That leads the American League. Two outs. We mentioned the Blue Jays. They've now scored 65 runs in the first inning, and this is the 35th game in which they have scored in the first inning. It's such an advantage for your pitchers. Starters get out there and they get runs early. Gives them some breathing room. 1-1 to tomorrow. Jordan Baker, you could hear him say it's in too far.
Trying to bring that fastball back on the inside corner, but Navarro wasn't going to have anything to do with that. 2 outs, you're the runner at second base. You got to get that big secondary lead so you can score in any ball to the outfield.
Ball is driven deep to center. Hicks is on his horse. He's going to get there and runs it down. Aaron Hicks, Pat talked about what a good defender he is in center. He runs one down, but the Blue Jays jump out on top. They get a 1-out walk, and Encarnacion cashes in Donaldson from third. For Encarnacion, it's his 19th double. RBI number 61, and the Blue Jays and Mark Burley have a 1-0 lead.
organization's glory years. Now, I asked Twins manager Paul Molitor how he would compare today's lineup, particularly the first 5 batters, to the lineup he was involved with long time ago. And Molitor said the 2 lineups are similar and that they both create a lot of damage. He says it was tough for opposing pitchers to navigate their way through the lineup, particularly the top 5. He said they're different in that this lineup can inflict immediate damage and put up crooked numbers, where back in his day, Whamco would just try to get on base, create havoc, and then wait for Joe Carter to belt a couple out of the ballpark. He says they're both similar in that they can score a whole lot of runs, Buck, but different in the way they went about doing their jobs.
In 1993, the Blue Jays had the top 3 hitters in the American League, in Olerud at 363, Molitor at 332, and Robbie Alomar at 326. It was a different type of offense, but it could do damage the same.
2 points. I thought the 93 team, when you compare that, they had more speed. They could create runs, and they hit for a higher batting average. The guys, at least at the top of the line, had more speed. Second point, what about Ricky Henderson? Didn't the Blue Jays pick up Ricky Henderson at the end of the season? Wasn't he leading off? So you add him into the mix too?
Played 44 games for the Blue Jays, had 22 steals in 24 attempts. He hit just .217, but he scored 37 runs in 44 games.
That's almost unfair.
Yeah,
having that much offense.
Well, and when we talked about it in the open, in our reflections of Ryan Goins and how he has complimented all the stars, Blue Jays had stars everywhere. That's how you win. Off the end of the bat, that's a fair ball. Donaldson knocks it down. What a play! Donaldson saved extra bases for Burley with that determined effort at third.
No, he will get a heads up from the shortstop or the catcher if it's going to be a breaking ball, so he'll take a couple of steps towards the line, and that'll help him to get a jump on the ball. That's exactly what Josh did. He got on top of that one actually in foul territory, threw it all the way across the diamond to record the out. Mark Burley on the mound against all these right-handed hitters. He's going to cut that fastball in. There's going to be a lot of ground balls to the third baseman.
This is Aaron Hicks. He hits it off the end of the bat. He's got to have a little English on it, but smoke is there. Another quick inning for Burley. Burley hardly broken a sweat yet. He's only thrown 17 pitches in 2 innings.
Saturday, August 15th, the Blue Jays host the Yankees at 1:07 p.m. Join us pregame outside Gate 10 for inflatables, activities, and lots of fun. After the game, kids 14 and under can run the bases just like the pros. For more information, call 416-341-1234 or visit BlueJays.com.
Thank you very much, Hazel. And the Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead as they're set to bat here in the bottom of the second. Justin Smoke starting at first base tonight. He is 0 for 2 in limited action against Kyle Gibson, the starter. Edwin Encarnacion, an RBI double with 2 outs in the first. That staked Mark Buehrle and the Jays to a 1-0 lead. Inside. That's the pitch that pitchers really need, that inside strike. That last pitch doesn't do a thing for you because Smoke simply lifts his arms up and it's inside for a ball. Going to try it again.
Yeah, if you start commanding that and throwing it for a strike, then as a hitter, you're starting to look for it in there. And what happens? Front shoulder starts leaking out a little bit, and now you got the outside part of the plate that you can go to.
Looks like a changeup that Smoke pulled foul. Yeah, that's what you want to establish in a hitter's mind, is the fact you can command both sides of the plate. Once you do that, he has to pick a side. You can't cover them both effectively. 2-2. Another full count. Blue Jays made Kyle Gibson work in the first inning. He's thrown 31 pitches already. Nobody out in the second. Off the end of the bat. Plouffe is there at third. 1 down. Kevin Pillar will bat with 1 out. He's got 7 home runs, and he likes what he sees on the mound tonight.
That ball down and in from Kyle Gibson looked like it might have been a changeup down and in. Pillar stayed back on it. That's the ball that you have to be really quick to. Down and in like that, and no wasted motion at all. Just drop that barrel of the bat on the baseball.
That was Pillar's 2nd home run of the season. Gibson would end up with a no decision. He went 5 2/3 in that game. He allowed 2 runs, just 1 earned run. Right back to the pitcher. He got a glove on it, knocks it down, and Pillar is retired.
When he is on, Kyle Gibson's going to get his share of ground balls with that hard fastball. 93, 94, that time it looked like it was off the back leg right there. And he was able to finish off the play over at first base. The Blue Jays on 93+ mile/per-hour fastballs are hitting 285. The major league average is 259, so that should play into the Blue Jays.
Well, and I think why they hit so well on those good fastballs is because they narrow their focus. They don't chase a lot of borderline pitches, so they can gear up for the good fastball. Two outs here in the second. Ryan Goins, he's been on a hot streak since getting regular playing time. Hits this one hard. Mauer dives and will go to the bag. There's a bounce back inning for Kyle Gibson. He gets 3 ground ball outs on just 10 pitches.
biggest contenders at the trade deadline. Download the Sportsnet magazine app to get the issue. Rogers and Shaw Sportsnet 1 customers can get a digital subscription for free. Visit sportsnet.ca/magazine for details. Buck.
Thank you very much, Hazel. That's one of the more interesting articles I've ever read about a trade deadline mindset of a GM. Arden Zwelling sat down with Alex Anthopoulos, and they went over the chronology of how he retooled this Blue Jays roster. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting how it all came together for the Blue Jays.
David Price, big part of that, and there were several conversations between Alex Anthopoulos and Dave Dombrowski, who at the time was the GM in Detroit. He has since been relieved of his duties. I guess you could say Dombrowski is a free agent. Troy Tulowitzki, he came first along with LaTroy Hawkins. And you know what? There was a lot of critics that said, well, why did the Blue Jays give up the prospects for a shortstop? We didn't see the finished product. We didn't see the whole picture. Shortstop was just the beginning.
Yeah, and it made sense after they got that shortstop when they went out and traded for a couple of more pitchers. Then it was like one of those aha moments, right?
It was a big aha moment, that's for sure. There's another ground ball to the aforementioned Tulowitzki.
Make your renovation a cut above during the DIY Expert Sale. Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
That's the view if you ride the elevator up the CN Tower. Right next door to Rogers Center, glass floor. It's one of Pat's favorite rides here in Toronto.
Is that bringing back some memories right there?
Oh, I love it. I can remember going up there while the ballpark was being built. And you used to look into the construction site from the CN Tower. Kurt Suzuki, tough to get anything by the left side of this infield. Donaldson and Tulowitzki active early on.
They now each have a ground ball hit to them. They've both been flawless. This one hit hard by Suzuki. Third base, stay down. Just use any part of your body to catch that ball. Keep it in front of you and then finish off the play at first base.
A lot of the old-time pitchers would tell the infielders when balls are hit hard, hey, put some weights in your pocket. You might be knocked out to left field. But Burley appreciates the defense he's getting from Donaldson and Tulowitzki. Ground ball up the middle. Goins gloves it. Does he have time? No. Not enough time to get Escobar. Boy, he made another terrific play. The bar has been raised dramatically for the defense of the Blue Jays.
You know what I have noticed since this new look defense is the range that we're starting to get. Watch where this ball is. First of all, Burley tries to kick at it, keep it in the field, but that one is over the bag. And Ryan Goins from his second base position goes to the other side of second base to flag it down, but he just doesn't have enough on it. And Escobar is too quick.
Yeah, Escobar runs too well, and the throw was right on the money on one hop to Smoke. So that's the first base runner to reach for the Twins. An infield single with 2 outs, back to the top of the order. Early misses with the first pitch to Brian Dozier. He is 5 for 39 over his last 10 games, including an 0 for tonight. Burley is making his 52nd career start against the Twins. That's the most by any one pitcher against Minnesota. Tommy John and Frank Tanana each had 47. They're tied for second behind Burley. Lots of information between some of these Twins hitters. Of course, Burley faced them over the years, and Torrey Hunter is the sole remaining Twin that has big at-bats against Burley.
You know, still one of the most impressive games that we have seen from Burley this year was against these Minnesota Twins. If you remember that back at Target Field, Mark gave up 4 runs in the first inning and it looked like he had nothing. They actually had somebody warming up in the bullpen. They were going to make a pitching change in the first inning. Well, that was it. He ended up throwing a complete game, shutting out Minnesota the rest of the way.
Burley faced 8 batters in the first. The Twins scored 4 runs on 5 hits, and it looked like he was going to be done early. He came back, retired the side in order in the second, third, fourth, and just sailed into that game. Dozier gets a base hit to left, back-to-back 2-out hits here in the third.
He started pounding that zone. He started using that cutter a little bit more, and then the changeup, and he just had them eating out of their hands the rest of the game. This time another changeup to Dozier, and he stays back on this one. Dozier's a tremendous fastball hitter. So Burley's trying to take the sting out of that bat by throwing him a changeup.
In that Burley start on May 29th, Chris Colabello hit a 2-run home run in the 9th to break up the tie. Joe Mauer goes after the first pitch. Pilar comes in. Now he retreats a couple of steps. Burley gives up a couple of 2-out hits and nothing more. The Twins leave a pair in their half of the third. We'll go to the bottom of the third. Blue Jays lead it 1-0.
Are back Friday, August 14th. The Blue Jays host the Yankees. Pre-game festival outside Gate 10. Gates will open at 4:30 p.m. Enjoy a live performance by Monster Truck in the licensed area. Call 416-341-1234 or visit BlueJays.com.
Hey, so that'll be a great weekend, and what a way to start it on Friday night. The Yankees will be in town for a 3-game series. It's back-to-back 3-game series between the Blue Jays and the Yankees. Of course, the Jays will go to New York tonight after this game, and they'll drop the puck on a 3-game series Friday night at Yankee Stadium. Should be exciting. Says Ben Revere picked up his first 2 hits in yesterday's game. David Price will start on Saturday in New York. He'll match up against Ivan Nova. R.A. Dickey will open up for the Blue Jays against Nathan Eovaldi. Eovaldi making his first start against the Blue Jays. He's never pitched against the Jays.
Should be electric. First things first.
Then Revere hitting in that 9th spot. He becomes a very pivotal hitter. Batting 9th. He's got speed. Need him on base. They head up Tulowitzki, Donaldson, and Bautista. Little looper into center. This is trouble. It's going to drop. Bounces over, hits his head. Revere has another hit. A leadoff single here in the third.
The 2015 Honda Civic is Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Beautiful evening in Toronto, looking out over Lake Ontario, Center Island. Lots of activities on the water. Gorgeous day. 24 degrees at the start of this ball game. Troy Tulowitzki struck out his first time up. Revere, he has drawn the attention of Kyle Gibson. Tulowitzki bunts and bunts it foul. Plouffe was deep at third, and I don't think he had bunt on his mind with Tulowitzki at the plate.
No, not with him at the plate. A sinker ball pitcher on the mound like that. So Tulowitzki did that one on his own. This top of the order. This is why you have Ben Revere with all the hits that he had last year. He led the National League hitting 9th, so he can get on base and bring up these top 4 hitters who have been super hot.
Base hit to right. Revere will turn around second. He'll go to third. Torrey Hunter gets it back into second. Back-to-back singles here in the third. Good start for the Blue Jays.
Since Troy Tulowitzki has been in the lineup, Blue Jays have gone 7-1. That was on July the 29th, and the top 4 hitters have really turned it on. Tulowitzki at the base hit. They lead in home runs, RBIs, and on base plus slugging. And one other stat that top 4 has led since July 29th is hard hit percentage. They hit the ball hard 21% of the time, which is number 1 in baseball. And that ball right there was hit hard.
It was smoked. Donaldson walked in, scored the only run of this game. That was in the first. Donaldson's had a big homestand. He's 12 for 36 on the homestand. He's hit 5 home runs and driven in 12. And he has been as clutch as anybody.
He has a game plan when he goes up there, and he sticks to it.
He has a 23-game hit streak against the Twins. That's the longest hit streak by any player against any team. He's also homered in 4 straight games against Minnesota, and he's homered in 5 of the 6 games they've played this season. Might need a new scouting report on Josh Donaldson.
Yeah, change things up. If you're the Blue Jays, you're like, keep doing what you're doing.
That was interesting. You heard Donaldson hollering out, no, no, no. He recognized the ball was right at the feet of the catcher just to make sure Tulowitzki didn't break for second. Way outside. The Blue Jays just keep coming at you.
Yeah, when pitchers try and nibble or try and throw a perfect pitch and they miss, Blue Jays are not going to swing at it. That's when pitchers get in trouble. It's almost like you better go out there and just be aggressive against them. Make a good pitch. You try and throw a perfect pitch, it's too tough. Too many good hitters.
Donaldson swinging 3-0, drills it to right. Revere jogs in with the second run of the ball game. Disciplined hitters are going to get the green light from the skipper.
Yeah, John Gibbons knows who's hot right now, so he's going to give Josh Donaldson the opportunity to drive in a run from third base less than 2 outs. So he's got the green light 3-0, and you can see he stays right on that pitch. Fastball with some sinking action, but it's up and over the middle of the plate. And he just rifles it to right field.
How many times do you see home run hitters like Donaldson trying to pull the ball on 3-0? Not Donaldson. He just says, you know what? There's money out there at third base. I'm just going to get a base hit to right. Revere is knocked in from third. 2-0 Blue Jays. Jose Bautista hit a grand slam last night in the second inning, his 5th career grand slam, and it was his first grand slam since September of 2010, and it also came against the Minnesota Twins.
he was looking for that one. I think after that first pitch, it looked like Jose, you can see him talking to himself. How did I miss that pitch right there? He was looking for that sinker in and missed it.
Not only is this a very talented hitting ball club, they're very smart. They communicate a lot in between their at-bats. 0-2.
Heston yesterday, or about yesterday's grand slam, that was off a changeup, 3-1 changeup that was thrown to him. You looking for that changeup, and wasn't really looking for it, but was thinking about it, that he might go there. And here it is, right here. Duffy, the youngster, throws a changeup, and Jose blasts it to left field for 4 runs. Blue Jays put them ahead 6-3. But that's what good hitters do. You look for a certain pitch, but you've got another pitch in the back of your mind, and if you recognize it, that's when you can attack.
1-2 to Bautista. Tulowitzki at second. Donaldson at first. Nobody out. On the ground. Plouffe at third. Goes to Dozier at second. Back to first. Offline. And the umpire, Tim Timmons, indicating Mauer had tagged Bautista. Bautista immediately reacted that there was no tag at all. So they'll probably give this one a look. Blue Jays will check with their video coordinator and see if they want to challenge that call at first.
Jose was right away. Very quickly said, no, I was not tagged. The throw took Mauer off the bag. And that one there looked like it might have clipped him right above the belt.
And you can see how quickly Bautista reacts as he looks at Tim Timmons, indicating there was contact. And it looks like they're going to accept the call at first. Bautista grounds into the double play. 5-4-3 on the double play. Tulowitzki's now at third. Edwin Encarnacion had a 2-out double in the first to knock in the first run of this game. Oh boy, high and deep, he's done it again. Number 21 for Edwin. And the hits just keep on coming.
Standing around the batting cage today, Edwin was hitting, and you can hear that distinctive sound start to be a little bit more consistent every time he swings at the ball. Was carrying in all parts of the ballpark, and you know, the talk around the cage today was, it looks like Edwin's getting ready to get into one of those hot streaks. Watch this one. First pitch, slider, up and out. Boy, that is a pretty swing.
Navarro stays on that ball and drives it into the seats, down and away. Encarnacion has stretched his hit streak to 9 straight. A double and a big booming home run to left. Much to the delight of the bench. Navarro's behind 0-2.
Boy, Edwin, if you get him starting to swing with all those runners on base, it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of runs for the Blue Jays.
Navarro strikes out, but the Blue Jays put him for 3 spot in the bottom of the third for Edwin Encarnacion, his 250th career home run. His 21st of the season. He's driven in 3 tonight with a double and a 2-run homer.
the new BPL season as they face Harry Kane and Spurs. That's Saturday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, 4:30 a.m. Pacific, right here on Sportsnet.
It's always an exciting match. Opening day of the Premier League, and you can see the Wayne Rooney play, and that's an exciting match anytime you start a new season like that. How about the Blue Jays? They have a 4-0 lead. Mark Burley staked to an early lead. Burley stranded a pair in the third. He gave up back-to-back 2-out singles. First two Twins to reach base. Torrey Hunter drives this one to right and deep. It's slicing towards the seats and it'll be out of play. Torrey Hunter back with the Minnesota Twins where he started his career. He's having a terrific season. 15 doubles, 17 homers. He's driven in 57 runs. I asked him about the prospects of playing next year, and he said, you know, if I get to the end of the season and I feel good, I might consider it, but I don't want to be a token. I don't want to be just a mentor. I want to be a contributor.
Oh, he's contributing this year. That's 3 straight years now that Torrey's hit at least 17 home runs. Look at that, 17 home runs against the Blue Jays in his career.
He got jammed, and Tulowitzki takes the short hop. He throws on the run, and man, he is really accurate when he throws that ball. He rarely sets his feet to make a throw, but he's rarely off target.
You know, and he's going to be a good fielder on this carpet, I think. It's a little bit slower than natural surface, and he likes to field the ball with one hand coming in on the ball to help him throw on the run. You'll get the true hop off of this turf also.
Says Miguel Sano. He goes after the first pitch. This is trouble down the right side. If it's fair, it is a fair ball. Bautista gets it as he has to deal with the fan. Bautista had a chance to make a throw on Sano, and that's why he's disappointed. That fan reached over to get the souvenir, and Bautista was thinking about wheeling and throwing to second.
And he had a shot to get the guy.
Sano drops one just inside the fair line, and Bautista, you see, he had a glove on the ball, and the fan took it out of his glove.
He glanced to see where Sano was, so he was going to try and make a play. And fans, if you want a ball, we'll get you a ball. Let the players try and make plays.
Now Bautista was certainly setting up to make a throw. This is Trevor Plouffe. He was robbed of a base hit by the third baseman, Josh Donaldson. And Bautista, you can see what he thinks. Come on, fans, this is our home ballpark. There's a drive down the left side, well foul.
Watching Jose on that ball, he knows that it's going to be fair. He took one quick look to see where Sano was, and he was going to catch the ball. You see he's starting to round into it. Thinks it's in his hand. He's like, I had a shot.
Yeah, he sure did. He's a terrific outfielder. He got there in plenty of time, and once that ball hit in fair territory, he was thinking about making the throw. This is a long, deep drive to left. Ben Revere is back at the track, at the wall. This ball is gone. Trevor Plouffe, with his 15th home run of the season, has cut into the Blue Jays lead. RBIs 58 and 59 for Plouffe.
Looked like that breaking ball or cutter down and in, and just like the home run we saw Pilar hit when the Blue Jays were in Minnesota for a right-handed batter off a left-handed pitcher, down and in. Just have to speed up the bat just a little bit. That's a breaking ball. And he gets it airborne, and the ball kept carrying. Ben Revere had a heck of an effort to get up there. He was thinking about trying to pull that one back.
This is driven to right. Bautista a couple of steps to his right. Aaron Hicks has had a good series. He's hit the ball hard. This time he lines out to right. Hicks hit in the leadoff spot in last night's game. Finished up 2 for 5 with a couple of runs scored. Well, that was a costly souvenir for that fan. It cost him his seat as he interfered with ball on the field of play. This is Eddie Rosario, who's in left field again tonight. It's a high fly ball. Pilar over in the alley. Ball's carrying, but it's going to be short of the warning track. So Burley comes right back after the 2-run home run, retires Hicks and Rosario. We'll go to the bottom of the fourth. The Blue Jays have a 4-2 lead over the Twins.
That is Trevor Plouffe, the third baseman for the Minnesota Twins, and the first time up that Justin hit. That was back in the second inning. Defensive shifts have become very important in baseball. That's Plouffe, the third baseman, on the first pitch to Smoke. Then on the second pitch, after he didn't bunt, that's him now behind second base. He shifted over. The count got the 2 strikes. Plouffe went back to his normal position, saying that ground ball pitcher, he's going to hit the ball there. And there's Trevor to finish off the play at Justin Smoke. The defensive sabermetrics, I think, are becoming more and more important in baseball, and it paid off for the Twins there.
Yeah, everybody seems to have bought into the idea the shifts are universal. Everybody's playing the shifts now. And all of the traditionalists are kind of coming on board after guys hit the ball sharply and there's a defender standing there.
You know, if you have that information, why not take advantage of it?
There you see the traditional infield. 2 and 2, 2 defenders on each side of second base. It's interesting how teams will shift from pitch to pitch. The problem I have with it is how many pitchers on your staff can make the pitches they intend to make. I think that's a real challenge of the whole shifting.
And if you have guys on your staff that can operate a game, report and the pitch type, then it makes a lot of sense. What if you have a knuckleball pitcher? And that would be very tough because you never know where the ball's going to go.
Smoke caught looking at strike 3 as Kyle Gibson gets that inside corner finally.
It should be a good pitch for Kyle Gibson because he's got a lot of movement on that fastball, and he's got to establish it inside. He brings that back on the inside part of the plate for his 3rd strikeout.
Kevin Pillar was the Blue Jays Honda Player of the Month for the month of June. He had a terrific month of June. He had 365 in that month. Just before the game tonight, Josh Donaldson was given his Honda Player of the Month for July. Donaldson was the Honda Player of the Month for the Blue Jays in the month of July. Ball and a strike. Blue Jays have a 4-2 lead. Kevin Pillar hit a hot shot back to the pitcher in his first at bat. Bounces this ball foul. Is there a particular approach the Blue Jays hitters can implement against a sinker baller like Gibson?
I think so. I think they can make them look for the ball up, number one. I think you can move around the box. You can move up, I think, in the box if you want to try and catch it a little sooner. Well, when you've got sinker ball pitchers, the ball's not going to carry through the strike zone. It's not going to carry and stay at the knees. So if you look for the ball, if you're looking for it down there, you got to take it because it's going to ride out of the strike zone.
Now they're going to say Pilar swung at that pitch and it hit him, so he will be out. And Pilar is called for a swing by Tim Timmons, so the ball hit him in the midst of that swing, so it's a strikeout. So he will go back to the dugout. Take a look at Pilar here. The pitch is inside.
You know, that's a double whammy for Kevin right there. He gets a strikeout and he got hit by the ball. Got that pad on that right hand, and that is called a strike by the first base umpire.
Owens takes one down and in. 3 straight strikeouts now for Kyle Gibson. Struck out Navarro to end the 3rd. He gets Smoke and Pilar here in the 4th. Gibson sorting things out after the 2-run home run to Encarnacion. That came with 2 outs in the 3rd. The take by Goins runs the count to 2-2. The slider was down off the plate. Same pitch. This time he gets a piece of it to stay alive. Blue Jays scored a run in the 1st. Encarnacion had an RBI double with 2 outs, and then Donaldson added to the Blue Jays lead with a RBI single on a 3-0 pitch in the 3rd, and then Encarnacion hit a 2-run homer in the 3rd.
Well, you're seeing the effect, I think, of Neil Allen, who's the pitching coach for the Minnesota Twins. A lot of change-ups in this 4-game series against the Blue Jays. He only came over here his first year as a pitching coach for the Minnesota Twins. He really believes that a pitcher's got to use that changeup.
Goins bounces it up the first base line. It bounces foul just before it got to the bag. Well, Neil Allen came to Minnesota from the Tampa Bay Rays. He was in the minor leagues with the Rays, and of course Jim Hickey and the minor leaguers over there are always emphasizing the changeup. So if you're looking for a pitching coach, why not go to a team that has really had a lot of success in teaching pitchers, and that's the Tampa Bay Rays.
They really believe in it, and it's a big part of it. They've had a lot of success implementing that changeup and using it a lot.
Owens bounces it up the first baseline. Gibson will flip to Mauer. Good inning for Kyle Gibson. 3 up, 3 down with a couple of strikeouts. We'll head to the 5th. The Blue Jays have a 4-2 lead, trying to sweep the Twins in a 4-game series for the first time in their history. Now it's time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zorn.
Presented by the 2015 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
It is a beautiful summer evening here in Toronto. Another good crowd on hand as this 10-game homestand comes to an end. Minnesota has lost the first 3 games of this 4-game series. Kurt Suzuki, the catcher, did not play in the game last night. He caught the first 2 games of this series. He grounded out the third his first time up. Takes a strike. Changeup missed outside. Burley got smoked on a comebacker off the bat of Eric Hosmer, his last start against Kansas City. He never really shows much reaction, but that got him pretty good. This is another deep drive to left. Revere is back in front of the scoreboard, gets there and runs it down. Suzuki gave it a ride.
Yeah, Mark, he likes that contact. He's always trying to kick at that ball, that comebacker, but that one hit him, and it smoked him pretty good.
Hit him inside the knee, and took him a while to regroup a little bit, but it's good to see him back out here.
Eric Hosmer hits the ball as hard as anybody, and when you're less than 60 feet 6 inches after you let go of that ball, you're a prime target. That time right off the inside part of the knee, and they ended up getting out over at first base, but watch the reaction from Burley. You see him grimace a little bit, and he started to hop off that mound.
Escobar thrown out by Tulowitzki. There's one instance where Tulowitzki set his feet, went over the top, and threw a seed across the infield.
He had to that time. Ball took him to his right, and he knew how fast Escobar is. Finished off the play.
2 down now, back to the top of the order. Brian Dozier, 1 for 2. He had a single in the third. Twins had back-to-back singles with 2 outs. Both runners were left on base. Mark Burley, you talk about a professional approach. He gets that ball, stands on the rubber, and waits for the sign from his catcher. He's out there to pitch, not out there to waste any time. And he is such a pleasure to watch pitch, and for his infielders and the outfielders as well. It's a real joy to play behind Burley because he never allows you to drift. Home plate umpire had second thoughts about that. Dozier was called out in last night's game on a very questionable pitch. He didn't like it. That was in the third. Here in the fourth tonight, Burley finds the bottom of the strike zone. Dozier bails out, thinks it's inside, but Burley gets the corner for the strikeout. Be at Yankee Stadium tomorrow. It'll be R.A. Dickey against Nathan Eovaldi, first game of the series. Aaron Sanchez will not be available for that opener on Friday. The Blue Jays will play short of pitcher. That's a great bunt. Plouffe makes a high throw, and it's going to go down and up to the right field line. Then Revere will turn and go toward third. Here's the throw, and he slides in safely. Ben Revere, there's the electricity we've been waiting for. He brings a lot of speed to your ballpark. A perfect bunt. His second hit of the night.
You know, he's starting to get into the act. We were talking about Ryan Goins in the opening about complementary players and just do the things that you're capable of doing. Don't try and do too much. This time he lays down a bunt. That's part of his game, and now he's going to turn on the Jets. Once that ball goes over Joe Mauer's head down the right field line, Revere recognizes that. He picks up his third base coach, and he makes it easily into third base with nobody out. He plays good defense. He had a sacrifice fly the other day. He had a nice sacrifice bunt, a couple of hits yesterday, and now he's got a couple of hits tonight.
Seventh air charge to Plouffe, the third baseman. Tulowitzki goes after the first pitch, grounds it right to Plouffe. Revere stays put at third. So Tulowitzki hit it hard, but right to the third baseman. Now it's up to Josh Donaldson. He will bat facing a drawn-in infield, just like Tulowitzki. Donaldson had the green light on a 3-0 pitch in the third and hit a sharp single to right to drive in a run. Four-two Blue Jays. They threaten to add to their lead here in the bottom of the fifth. They've out-hit the Twins 6-4.
You did a good job, Dan. All right.
The Twins are going through a tough stretch, and there's a lot of frustration over in that dugout. The Twins just a game over 500. They haven't been at 500 since they were 12-12 in early May. This has got to be a very comfortable situation for a lot of these hitters, knowing that if you don't get a good pitch to hit, the guy behind you is a pretty good hitter too. You don't have to carry the load.
And don't help him out. Don't help out that pitcher. Just lay off of it. I don't know. It looks like Gibson's trying to nibble on the corners to try and get Donaldson to chase off a pitch off the plate. Look at Suzuki, how far outside he is. It's almost like they're saying, okay, Bautista grounded into a double play last time. I'll take my chances again.
I think you're right. I think they are pitching around him. You cannot have a sinker ball pitcher pitch to the corners. Everything's going to be a ball. You got to have him throw it to the heart of the plate and let that movement take it to the corners.
He got a hit last time, 3-0.
Not even close. You were right on the money, Pat. He didn't want anything to do with Donaldson. So that'll get Bautista's attention. He knows what was going on. They pitched around Donaldson to get to Bautista.
Yeah, and if you know Jose, he takes those kind of things personal. Like, oh, you think you can get me? You think you can get me hit into a double play again? Well, we'll see.
Now here's where Bautista has to raise his sights just a little bit. See if he can't get something up around knee high so he can drive it to the outfield. First and third, one out. Bautista thought that ball was inside. Jose has reached base against the Twins 23 of his last 25 games coming into this ball game. He's hit 21 career home runs against Minnesota.
With a lot of power and production. You know how we talked about the lineup working together. The guy behind him is red hot. So I think Gibson's going to go after him.
Donaldson had a stolen base in the first. Encarnacion has an RBI double and a 2-run home run, 2 for 2 already. Line drive down the left field line. That's a fair ball into the corner. Revere's in to score. Donaldson goes to third, and Bautista, he had his cage rattled.
I think you're absolutely right. You want to pitch around Donaldson? Well, you got to deal with me. And now it's another changeup from Gibson. Jose hit a home run last night on a changeup that time. He is all over that with a double down the left field line. There's the changeup. And there goes the double. Now you got first base open. And I'd be shocked if they pitched to Encarnacion.
Yeah, they're not going to pitch to him. The infield suggests that, as they will give him the free pass.
Edwin drove in 3 runs last night, and he's already driven in 3 runs tonight, so they're not going to give him another chance to do that. Drive in another run.
This doesn't happen all that frequently, that the Blue Jays are given a free pass, an intentional walk. There's too many good hitters up and down the order, so it's rare that you see this. But with first base open, how about Ben Revere? He got it started twice tonight. He reached base leading off the third, came around to score. He had a bunt single in the 5th to start this inning, and he's come around to score.
Well, you were talking about rattling Jose Bautista's cage. How about this guy coming up here? Keanu Navarro, I think he's got the same type of mindset.
Yeah. I think everybody takes a lot of pride in being able to deliver big hits, and Navarro has done that throughout his career. It's the first time that Navarro has faced Kyle Gibson. He's 0 for 2 so far tonight with a strikeout.
Couple of grand slams for Gianna in his career. He's looking for something up and out over the plate that he can get extra base hit with.
Borderline pitch called a strike. Blue Jays with that Bautista grand slam last night have hit 3 grand slams this season. Devin Travis, Edwin Encarnacion, and Bautista. With the Encarnacion home run in the 3rd, the Blue Jays have homered in 18 of their 19 games since the All-Star break. Nothing like a 4-day rest. Base hit down the left field line. Donaldson's in to score. Bautista's being waved home. Here's the throw from Rosario, not in time. Gianna Navarro cashes in with the bases loaded. A 2-run single to left. This lineup works.
It works together real well. Looked like a sinker down and in, and instead of trying to pull that ball, rolling over on it and hitting a ground ball, Deonner stays right with it and hits it past Trevor Plouffe. I was watching Jose Bautista on that. I didn't think he had a chance to score because he was going to freeze on every line drive, but then recognized that ball was by him. Luis Rivera being very aggressive at third base sends him, and he scores ahead of the throw. A 2-run single for Navarro.
RBI 16 and 17 for the Blue Jays catcher. Bautista busted it around third to get Navarro that second RBI.
Yeah, he stopped and then had to start again because of the line drive. Freeze on all line drives if you're on base. But he gets that second RBI for Navarro.
Justin Smoke now with runners at first and second. Still just one out. 3 runs in this inning. The Blue Jays have scored a single run in the first, 3 in the third, and 3 here in the fifth. Brian O'Rourke is the left-hander. Smoke, that's a base hit. Going to be extra bases. Encarnacion's around third. He's going to score. Navarro will go to third. Smoke with an RBI double.
You know what you can't do against Kyle Gibson, a pitcher like Gibson, is try and pull the ball because his sinker is so good. But the Blue Jays, the left-handed batters, they're just taking that ball the other way. We saw Navarro do it for a hit, and now Smoke does it. Justin goes right down, keeps that head down, and hits it down the left field line for extra bases. That's his 8th double of the season. And another RBI and a run for the Jays.
Smoke has 31 ribbies. Blue Jays now lead it 8-2. David Price has to be enjoying his new ball club. They can put up some crooked numbers. Kevin Pillar hit a hot shot back to the pitcher and grounded out 1-3 in the second. Then he was called for a swing in the fourth by Tim Timmons, the first base umpire, as the ball hit him. That goes down as a strikeout. The Blue Jays have 4 runs here in the fifth. 19 times this season they've had 5 or more runs in an inning. The most in baseball. Three and 0 to Pillar. Ben Revere got it all started. He is 2 for 2 tonight. Has scored a pair of runs, hitting in that 9th spot. John Navarro with a 2-run single, and right behind him Justin Smoke had an RBI double. Now it's 3-1. Four hits and 2 walks this inning. Tough pitch right on the corner.
Nothing you can do with that. 3-1. You're looking for something down and in, and he painted him on the outside corner.
Foul. Changeup. Pillar pulled it foul. You know, we talk about this lineup and how well it works together. The top 4 hitters in the Blue Jays lineup in this series have reached base 25 times so far. They just wear you out.
Yeah, it's a lot of opportunities for the guys behind you to knock in some runs.
Pillar hits it on the ground. Navarro will stay put at third. That's the second out of the inning. Ryan Goins will come to the plate. He'll be the 9th Jay to hit this inning. And he's going to get a different look. Paul Molitor, the manager of the Twins, has signaled for the bullpen. It'll be Ryan O'Rourke, the left-hander. O'Rourke and Goins will face each other for the 3rd time in this series. O'Rourke struck out Goins on Monday afternoon, and then Goins had a base hit against him in the next at bat he faced him. So the left-hander in. There are 2 outs and 2 aboard for Ryan Goins.
Sportsnet World is your home for European soccer. Get exclusive match coverage of the Barclays Premier League, Bundesliga, Euro 2016 qualifiers, FA Cup, and more. Contact your television service provider to subscribe today. Visit sportsnet.ca/world for details. Buck.
Thank you very much, Hazel. This is Ryan O'Rourke, the lefty, to face Ryan Goins. We mentioned O'Rourke struck out Goins in the 8th inning on Monday afternoon, and then came right back in to face Goins in the 6th inning of the Tuesday night game. Goins singled to center.
Lefty's hitting .095 against O'Rourke. They used 5 relievers in the game yesterday, and this is the 3rd time in 4 games that we are seeing O'Rourke. He's thrown an inning and a 1/3 against the Blue Jays.
Tyler Duffy, the starter for the Twins last night, went just 2 innings, so they had to go deep into their pen. Way outside. Tyler Duffy made his major league debut against the Blue Jays, and he was roughed up 6 earned runs in 2 innings. O'Rourke strikes out Goins, but the Blue Jays send 9 men to the plate and score 4 runs to take a commanding 8-2 lead. We head to the 6th, and here comes the Home Hardware cleanup crew. Brought to you by Home Hardware.
Comfort Zone are recipients of the Throwback Thursday in-stadium seat upgrade. While over in the Jays Care Community Clubhouse, we welcome guests from ALS Society of Canada. And with me is Tammy Moore, CEO of ALS Canada. Let me ask you this. Why do you think the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge has become so popular in raising awareness for your cause?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. I think one is that it's easy to do and it's something fun, but I think it's a stark contrast to the devastation of this terminal illness.
Let me ask you about the impact the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge has towards your goals with ALS.
Well, absolutely. When we looked at it from what we achieved last year, one was awareness, which was a huge part of it, but then there was also the fundraising that came as a result, which is allowing us to do such critical work as we support Canadians living with ALS and invest in research so that one day ALS will be a treatable, not terminal disease.
Well, we want to thank you, Tammy, and everybody behind ALS Canada for all their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Buck, back to you.
It's a great job, and obviously a very serious cause, and we want to congratulate the ALS Society of Canada and all their great work to raise awareness for that devastating disease. Joe Mauer hits a 2-hopper to first as Smoke grabs it, steps on the bag.
She's fun. She's right. It is fun to do that ice bucket challenge.
You are speaking from experience, huh?
They were my two boys, Jake and Jared, dousing me with that cold water last August. You know, it was freezing, but it was a lot of fun. And then you challenge other people, and then you send your check into ALS. It's a great idea to do that. A lot of fun, but very cold.
Blue Jays did it today. David Price got Jose Bautista into the dunking chair and hit the target, and Bautista took a dip in the ice cold water. Torrey Hunter, the right fielder. 2-0 count on Hunter. He has grounded out twice to the shortstop. One of Torrey Hunter's considerations whether or not he will play next year is the fact that his son is a terrific football player at Notre Dame University. This ball is hit in the air. Pilar has plenty of room. Hunter is retired, 2 down, and Torrey Hunter said, you know what, I'm going to miss 5 games of the Notre Dame schedule this year, and his son figures to be the starting slot back on the Fighting Irish offense. Pretty terrific.
Yeah, a lot of fun. It's a good time of the year right there. This is a good time of the night for a ball to get lost. You can see Jose had no idea where that ball was in the twilight, but Kevin Pilar kept his eye on it, records the out.
This is the young DH Miguel Sano. He had a bloop double down the right field line in the 4th inning. It's this ball to center. Pilar moves over. Now he sees it. He didn't see it for a while. He was cruising over, anticipating where it might come down, and right at the end he saw it to make the catch. Tough time of the night for the outfielders. Of Rogers Blue Jays baseball partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays baseball partnership. Another terrific game for the Blue Jays. They have an 8-2 lead. Ben Revere is having quite a start to his night. He's 2 for 2, has scored twice. That's the sentiment around this ball club right now, and the fans are acknowledging that we may never lose again. This ball is hit in the air into shallow right center. Torrey Hunter coming over, and Hicks lets it drop, and Ben Revere is 3 for 3. Boy, that was another example of how tough it is to see right now. I don't think either Hicks or Hunter really had an idea where that ball was.
Yeah, a humpback liner like that from Ben Revere into right center field. And he'll get on base one more time. It sounded like he broke his bat on this ball. And out into right field, some good outfielders, but Doesn't look like either one of them really had a chance or an idea where that ball was, like they lost it, and Revere will certainly take it.
So O'Rourke is out after Revere leads off for the third time with a base hit tonight. This is Blaine Boyer. He has worked a lot in this series. He is in to face the top of the order, Tulowitzki, Donaldson, and Bautista. When we come back. Appearance in this series, he retired all 4 batters he faced last night, including Troy Tulowitzki, who lined out against Boyer to end the 5th. Ben Revere at first base with his 3rd hit of the night.
Here in the number for Boyers as he gets to 50 games now this season, 2-4 with a 293 earned run average. This is the 7th game that the Blue Jays have played against Minnesota and the 5th time that they have seen Boyer this season. Blue Jays batting just 200 against him this year.
Popped in the air into shallow center. Dozier goes out. Hicks comes in. That's going to drop. Ben Revere does a good job, and boy, it has been a rough series for the Twins. Couple of fly balls fall safely here in the 6th inning.
You know, we got a glimpse of that at the top of the inning when Bautista lost the ball up in the sky, and then Pilar did, and now the 2 Minnesota Twins outfielders can't do it again as Boyer's pitch is hit into center field and it drops in for a base hit.
You just cannot give the Blue Jays extra outs, but you can see the sky that the outfielders are dealing with right now. It's twilight and there's not much background to pick up that baseball from. Josh Donaldson's been on base all 3 times. The Blue Jays now have 11 hits. It's the 46th time this season they've had 10 or more hits. And in those games, they are 34-11. Paul Molitor, when he played with the Blue Jays, he was part of that lineup they referred to as Whamco. And he has seen this act before, but he was in the Blue Jays dugout as a player because he was a big part of it.
He was a part of it. He was the guy who was always getting on base, scoring all those runs.
If you don't know what Whamco is, it was Devon White, Robbie Alomar, Paul Molitor, Joe Carter, and John Olerud, 1 through 5 in the Blue Jays order. And in '93, Olerud, Molitor, and Alomar finished 1, 2, 3 in the batting race.
Yeah, one of the best offensive teams that I've ever seen. They could beat you in so many different ways.
1-2 to Donaldson. He takes strike 3, looking for another pitch. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Thank you very much. And that is the young left-hander for Boston going up against J.C. Sabathia and Eduardo Rodriguez, who they acquired last year trade deadline for Andrew Miller from Baltimore. Jose Bautista had an RBI double in the 5th. He wasn't thinking about a soft single to right.
Trying to put 3 runs on the board with just one swing.
The Encarnacion home run came in the 3rd, and that gives the Blue Jays 38 home runs over their last 21 games here at Rogers Center. And as I mentioned earlier, they have homered in 18 of 19 games since the All-Star break. Inside.
Twins have had their problems in this ballpark also since the start of 2006. Here's 9-24.
The Blue Jays at home this season 35-21. Bautista had another good swing. The Twins have 2 runs on 4 hits against Mark Burley. The Blue Jays have put up 8 runs on 11 hits. This is popped up into shallow right. Dozier, the second baseman, out, makes the catch. Bautista pops out to the second baseman. That's the second out of the inning. So Edwin Encarnacion, he was issued the intentional walk in the 5th. He homered in the 3rd, a 2-run homer, had an RBI double in the 1st. His second straight 3 RBI game.
Get that average up to 250. Edwin's now driven in 63 runs.
Wow, that bat really flew through the zone there. And good credit on that high fastball.
Lane Boyer, I told you, it's the 5th time that we have seen him this year. He's going to challenge you with a fastball. Struck out Josh Donaldson with a fastball.
Base hit. Rivera is around 3rd. He's going to score. Tulowitzki will go to 3rd. He's being waved home. They miss the cutoff man, and Tulowitzki is tagged out at the plate. Good gamble by Luis Rivera as the Twins missed the first cutoff man. He took a shot trying to score Tulowitzki, and Tulowitzki is cut down at the plate. Encarnacion picks up his 4th RBI of the game. Tulowitzki tries to avoid the tag with a slide, but Suzuki tags him out to end the inning. It's 9-2 Blue Jays.
Almost 20,000 fans will receive the alumni bobblehead Sunday, August 16th. Blue Jays and Yankees. For more information, call 416-341-1234 or visit BlueJays.com.
Hazel, that 85 team was the first team in franchise history to win a division title. Bell, Barfield, and Mosby, the outfield on that team. Jesse Barfield hit 27 home runs in 85. George Bell had 28. Mosby had 18. That team won 99 games. They went 99-62 and didn't have a 100 RBI batter. The 95 team was led by George Bell, who drove in. Excuse me, the 85 team, Bell had 95 ribbies. He led the team.
They didn't have a guy drive in 100 runs.
Nope.
I thought for sure they had somebody drive in 100 just against us, the Cleveland Indians.
That was quite a team. Of course, the outfield, young outfielders, and they really set the tone for the team. And pitching staff was pretty good as well. Dave Steve won 14. Jimmy Key was 14-6. Doyle Alexander was 17-10. It's a high fly ball. Pilar makes the catch.
The 2015 Honda Civic is Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Darkness hasn't fallen over Toronto, and Burley is pitching in the 7th already. Another terrific start for Mark Burley, looking for his 12th win of the season.
You know, except for that start a couple times ago at Seattle, Mark Burley, he only threw 5 2/3 innings in that start. Other than that, over his last 9 starts, he's pitched at least 7 innings. I mean, he's money.
Kevin Cash, the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays, earlier told us he feels like Mark Burley is the most valuable pitcher in the American League. He didn't say he's the best or the most dominant. He said he's most valuable because you know what you're going to get every night. You can go out there and pitch you into the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Well, this is so valuable before what's going to start tomorrow night.
Absolutely. What a great point that is.
When you can pitch this deep and you can save your bullets down in that bullpen before you head to New York with that big series against the Yankees.
There's a high fly ball. This is deep to center. Pilar at the wall. This ball is gone. Aaron Hicks, his first hit of the night. Second home run Burley has allowed here tonight for Hicks, his 6th homer of the season. It comes with 1 out here in the 7th.
Put Hicks in the leadoff spot last night. He had a couple of hits. That broke a 1-for-19 skid for Aaron. And that home run right there, probably going to feel pretty good. Score doesn't feel pretty good, but that hit right there feels good for Hicks.
It is 9-3 now. Goins gobbles it up and throws out from left fielder Eddie Rosario. 2 down now. So Bo Schultz, after that home run, has started to throw. Burley, very economical, has only thrown 75 pitches. Kurt Suzuki, the catcher, has grounded out and flied out. Mark Burley leads the American League with 4 complete games. Well, he's having a terrific season in every category. It's a high strike. 2 balls and a strike, 2 outs. Burley trying to close out the 7th.
Just goes out there and he just does his thing, doesn't he? Throw strikes, bound the strike zone, pitch to contact, give you innings.
Talk about contrasting styles. You take Mark Buehrle and his finesse and David Price and his power, and they're both the consummate professionals. I mean, there's no nonsense. They're here. They have fun. Don't take me wrong, but they go about their business in a professional manner. David Price will start Saturday in the middle game of the 3-game series against the New York Yankees. Buehrle walks Suzuki, first walk he has issued. Buehrle now has walked 2 in his last 7 starts. Here's the schedule ahead, looking ahead at the starters and the matchups in New York. R.A. Dickey will start it out on Friday night against Nathan Eovaldi. Eovaldi will make his first appearance against the Blue Jays. Then Price, 10-7 for his career against the Yankees, goes up against Ivan Nova. And then on Sunday, Marco Estrada, who has really thrown the ball well, goes up against Masahiro Tanaka. The third and final game, the finale, on Sunday afternoon.
Should be a lot of fun, a lot of action in the Bronx, or these two teams.
Pete Walker out just to give Buehrle a little time, take a deep breath.
You know, you were talking about walks for Mark Buehrle. I was looking at some of the stats for July. Mark made 5 starts in the month of July through 34 2/3 innings and had 1 walk the whole month. Talk about pounding the strike zone.
Eduardo Escobar, he was the first Twin to reach base. Buehrle retired the first 8 batters to start the game, and then Escobar had an infield hit in the 3rd. Hits this one to Donaldson. He will go to second. Buehrle, another 7-inning outing for the veteran lefty. He's in line for his 12th win of the season. That would move his record to 12-5.
Of an Acura luxury suite at Rogers Center. Your single ticket includes hostess and food for only $150. Reserve your ticket before they're gone. Call 416-341-1635.
Now that is a big glove. How about that? There's the handshake from the skipper, John Gibbons, for Mark Buehrle, and Buehrle, his night has come to an end. Tell you what, Buehrle has put on another show tonight. This is Gallo Navarro. He hits it deep to center. Hicks gets back there and runs it down. So Buehrle, there's another 7 innings in this start tonight. He and Navarro did a terrific job of mixing up the pitches.
Yeah, and with a big lead like they have, they can afford to go to that bullpen and let them get some work. and give Burley the rest of the night off. I think Mark threw just about 80 pitches in this ball game, 83 to be exact. Brian Dunsing will take over here. He's 3-0 with a ERA of 5.81. Second time that we have seen Dunsing in this series.
Mark Burley and Josh Donaldson having a conversation on the Blue Jays bench. Justin Smoak had a big RBI double in the fifth, part of a 4-run fifth inning. He's a switch hitter, first time he's hit from the right side. Smoak batting .229 for the season with that double, but he's driven in 31 runs. Done a nice job. His at-bats are inconsistent. Got 31 RBIs. He hits that ball into center field. One out single for Smoak. He's 2 for 4.
Make your renovation a cut above during the DIY Expert Sale. Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
Lots of new fans hit the Jays shop, and they're picking out their first-year Blue Jays jerseys. Donaldson, of course, Ari Dickey is a holdover, but you're going to see some Tulowitzki jerseys and Price, the Troy Hawkins, Mark Lowe, all those newcomers. This jersey would be flying off the shelves.
Was it Kevin Durant who was here the other day and bought a David Price jersey?
How about that? That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
This ball club has a national following, and David Price starting to realize that. Ball on a strike to Pilar Ben Revere. He's had a terrific night. 3 for 3, 3 leadoff singles, and he's come around to score each time he's reached base. On the ground, Escobar goes to second. That's all they'll get. It was a broken bat grounder to the shortstop, so Pilar hits into the fielder's choice. 2 outs now, and the Blue Jays are wrapping up their 10-game homestand tonight. Take a look at the schedule. It all started on Monday. That was Holiday Monday, and David Price made his debut, and the Blue Jays have won the first 3 games of this series. Tomorrow night, Friday, August 7th, things will start in New York. 3-game series against the Yankees. Blue Jays will have an off day on the 10th. Then Oakland, Brett Lawrie and Danny Valencia will be in town. And then the Yankees are right back here at Rogers Center next Friday night.
Promises to be very exciting here at the ballpark. Blue Jays finished up a stretch where they played 16 of 19 games on the road, and now they're in the middle of a stretch where they will play 16 at 19 at home and maybe make up some ground on the Yankees.
Ryan Goins 0 for 3. We mentioned that Dickey will start on Friday night, tomorrow night in the Bronx against the Yankees, and that bodes well for the Blue Jays. Last night in Boston, it was Stephen Wright, the knuckleballer for the Red Sox. He went 8 innings, allowed 1 run on 4 hits. And that was against a team that had scored 90 runs in their previous 10 games. So he really shut the door, and that's encouraging for Ari Dickey as he opens up the series. Only 2 knuckleballers in the league, and the Yankees are going to see him in the span of 3 games.
Thought I saw a stat or something like that today. The Yankees hitting 185 against knuckleball pitchers. maybe he was the JV and Dickey's going to be the varsity tomorrow. What do you think? A little warm-up game?
Yeah, they just got a chance to test their knuckleball. And then the contrasting style of Price on a quick turnaround Saturday afternoon. Price will go up against the Yankees. Lawrence takes another breaking ball low. It's a full count, 2 outs. R.A. Dickey for his career is 7-3 against the Yankees with a .243 earned run average. And he is really throwing the ball well now. I mean, he's in a great stretch. Pilar will be off on the pitch. Dunsing with a 3-2 count on Goins, 2 outs. There goes Pilar. Ball 4 in the dirt. So Goins will reach for the first time tonight. And here is Ben Revere. Revere has had 1 4-hit game this season. Came as a Philly. That 4-hit game was on the 6th of May down in Atlanta, his hometown. He comes from Georgia, and he had a 4-for-5 game against the Braves, including 3 doubles. So he's looking for his second 4-hit game of the season in this at bat. Revere this season against lefty pitching batting .237, but for his career he's hit over 300 against lefties. That's a foul ball right off his foot.
Right off the top of that foot. You can see he's got no stride, but he gets that ball right off his shoe. Gonna have to walk that one off.
0-2, 2 outs. Pilar at second, Goins at first. Blue Jays lead it 9-3 in the bottom of the 7th. Curveball off the plate inside. It's 1-2.
He gives you professional at bats, doesn't he? Working against the left-hander here. The outfield very shallow against Revere. So Pilar, they might not be able to score if the ball's hit hard enough at one of those outfielders. You can see how shallow they are with Revere at the plate.
That ball gets away. Pilar and Goins will both move up into scoring position. Revere did a good job. He signaled the runners, hey, go ahead. Ball's in the dirt, and catcher doesn't know where it is. Sometimes the base runners can't locate the baseball.
Another breaking ball from Dunsing. That time Suzuki couldn't block it. The Blue Jays will take advantage of that one more time. Trying to end the at bat right there. He tried to backhand that breaking ball, and it went off his glove.
Wild pitch charge to Dunsing, 2-2 now. Revere pops it up. Plouffe at third makes the catch, and the Blue Jays will leave a pair in the 7th. But the big bats have staked Mark Buehrle to a 9-3 lead. Buehrle is done. Bo Schultz, the big right-hander, will come on to work the 8th.
on demand in true HD. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and much more. MLB.tv Premium includes a free At-Bat 15 subscription. Watch baseball at home, at the office, or on the go. Season-long subscription packages are available. Visit BlueJays.com for more details.
Well, you want to make sure you get a chance to watch that MLB.tv ball game starting tomorrow night in New York. Going to be very interesting. Bo Schultz takes over for Mark Burley. This is his 21st appearance of the season.
Bo last worked in that second game against the Kansas City Royals. That was that Friday night game when it went extra innings. Blue Jays will win that game 7-6. Schultz threw 2 innings against Kansas City. Gave him a couple of hits and a run. He will get a chance here to work an inning. He'll start with the top of the order of the Minnesota Twins.
Brian Dozier struck out his last time up. That was in the 5th against Mark Burley. He has now struck out in 16 straight games. That's one shy of the Twins franchise record for strikeouts in consecutive games.
One of those guys who holds the records here in the ballpark.
Yes, he is, and he won't be too pleased that we're talking about it, but Chris Colabello has a stretch of 17 straight games with a strikeout. He and George Mitterwald, the former catcher for the Twins, they have both had 17 games with a strikeout. That's the franchise record.
I don't think he would mind us talking about him. It's 9-3, right?
No, I know, Chris. He was. What he would tell us is, hey, I was playing. I was in the lineup.
I'm in the big league.
Yep. Dozier fouls it back. The one thing that has changed dramatically for the Blue Jays from last year to this year, the power arms in their pen. Bo Schultz just rushed that fastball up there at 97. The Blue Jays the bullpen has been terrific. Mark Burley goes 7 innings and allows 3 earned runs. It's the 11th straight game the Blue Jays starters have allowed 3 earned runs or less. 11 straight. You're going to win a lot of games with this offense.
That's impressive, isn't it? I mean, the starters, what they have done this year.
Dozier bounces it to short. Tulowitzki throws on the run.
Don't forget to catch The Strain Sunday at 10 Eastern only on FX. F changes his appearance to leave the city, while Nora is left as a reluctant parent for Zach. Don't miss an all-new episode of The Strain Sunday at 10 Eastern only on FX.
Joe Mauer, the first baseman, 0 for 3 in this game. The Twins have just 5 hits. 2 of those have been home runs, counting for their 3 runs.
Well, you were talking about the starters and what they have done this year. According to Blue Jay notes, they are first in the American League in wins. Starters wins with 44.
We always talk about that when you try to break down what it takes to win divisions and go into the postseason. And every time you look at the postseason teams, their pitching staff is among the leaders in wins for their starters. That's how you win ball games. Your starters pitch deep into the game and they record those wins.
Give your team a chance every single night. David Price has 10 wins, one of them with the Blue Jays. Burley leads with 11. Drew Hutchison has 10. We saw Marco Estrada. He's got 9.
Marco Estrada, that's a career high for him, 9 wins. His previous high, he had back-to-back 7-win seasons for the Brewers, 13 and 14. So there are a lot of good things going on. The Blue Jays ERA coming into this game as a team, 3.93. That's the lowest it's been since April 10th. So as much as we talk about the offense, the pitchers are pulling their fair share as well.
The starters and the relievers. You mentioned the power in the back of that bullpen now for the Jays. And it all seemed to come together when Aaron Sanchez came back, didn't it? He said, you're going to pitch in the 8th inning. and he has been locked down. Osuna's going to pitch the 9th. Those are two guys from their farm system. Pretty impressive.
3-2 to Mauer. Hit in the air down the left field line. That's going to be in the seats. Since Sanchez moved to the bullpen, everything has improved, and since the All-Star break, those are the numbers for the bullpen by the Blue Jays pitchers. They've done a terrific job since the break. Liam Hendricks has allowed just 1 hit since the All-Star break. Brett Cecil's had 14 straight outings without allowing a run. That's a foul ball. Tim Timmons, the first base umpire, waves it foul.
And those rankings up there that we just saw of the Blue Jays bullpen, they're first in a lot of those categories. This ball foul down the right field line. You can see that clearly.
Yeah, the Blue Jays bullpen has taken the heat all year long, but now with Hawkins, Lowe, Sanchez being added to the bullpen, things have turned around. 3-2 to Mauer. On the ground, Goins to his left. From the outfield, throws out Mauer. He's 0 for 4. Joe Mauer 1 for 11 in the series. Torrey Hunter, he's been shut out tonight, 0 for 3 against Burley. It might be his final at bat against Mark Burley, as they're both at the end of their contracts, and if it is, Torrey Hunter will end up with exactly 100 at bats against Mark Burley. Only Michael Kadire has more at bats against Burley than Torrey Hunter.
Let's see, 24 hits for Hunter. That's 240.
They have gone toe to toe for a long time.
Must be a heck of a contrast right now for Hunter, where you face Mark Burley, the left-hander, soft tosser, cutter, changeup, and now you got to face Bo Schultz, the right-hander. He throws 95, 98.
Pulls that one down and away. It's 3-1 to Hunter. Two-out walk issued to Torrey Hunter. Second walk taken by the Twins tonight. Burley walked one, now Schultz walks Hunter. Miguel Sano is 1 for 3 as the DH tonight. Sano blooped a double down the right field line. He homered in last night's game. Tried to check his swing and fouls it up. The Blue Jays have never swept a 4-game series against Minnesota. They were on the verge of doing that tonight. The last time the Twins were swept by an opponent in a 4-game series was September last year, when they lost 4 straight to the Angels at Target Field in Minneapolis.
Blue Jays trying to get 6 games over 500 for the first time this year also.
Get yourself a little cushion up over 500. Lots of young fans jumping on the bandwagon as the Blue Jays have brought in some star players. And the Stars are going to meet tomorrow in New York. Josh Donaldson looking forward to taking on the Yankees. He has yet to drive in a run against New York this season. 1-2. Deep drive to center. Pilar is back and makes another terrific catch. Boy, he timed his leap perfectly. That was over his head, about to hit on the warning track. And he took a mighty leap and takes an extra base hit away from Miguel Sano. Pilar's been doing this all season long. Another highlight reel play by the center fielder, Kevin Pilar. The Blue Jays have a 9-3 lead. Pilar putting on a show with the glove. Now it's time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zorn.
Friday, August 28th at 7:07 p.m. For tickets, call 416-341-1234 or visit BlueJays.com.
Tigers, of course, have a couple of former Blue Jay pitching prospects in Daniel Norris and Matt Boyd, but the Blue Jays have David Price. Trevor May is making his first appearance in this series. He's been the most consistent reliever, and he has started some for the Twins, but he's throwing the ball very well, pitching out of the bullpen lately.
One of those games was against the Blue Jays this year. He threw 6 innings, gave up 8 hits and 4 earned runs, gave up a home and had 5 strikeouts against the Jays. He's got a good sinking fastball, curveball slider.
Troy Tulowitzki, the leadoff man, is 2 for 4 tonight. He has scored a run. Tulowitzki has his season average up over 300, batting .301 with those 2 hits. The Blue Jays are 7-2 in this homestand to this point, on the verge of going to 8-2. We bring that up because it really ranks up there in franchise history as far as the best homestand of 10 or more games all time for the Blue Jays. They went 10-1 in an 11-game series back in '84. In May. They also had a 9-1 stretch in '99. 11-2 in '89. They went 9-2 in '85, that first division championship series, and that was in July, middle of the season, where they really started to close ground. Kevin Pilar getting his first taste of what it feels like to be part of a real good ball club. But the 8-2 would match 2 8-2 10-game homestands. They had one last year in May. You remember they had that big great stretch in May. And then in '99 in June they had another 8-2 homestand. So this is one of the best homestands they've had in 10 or more games.
They also had a game where it looked like they had the win. I think it was a Mark Burley start against Kansas City where they were leading 5-1 on this homestand.
Bautista had a big RBI double in the 5th. After they pitched around Josh Donaldson, they walked him. Didn't want anything to do with Donaldson. Justin Smoke with a big RBI double. Navarro had a 2-run single, and Encarnacion's had a big night. Edwin has driven in 4 tonight. Ben Revere in the 9th spot, his first 3-hit game as a Blue Jay. He scored 3 runs, batting 9th. Donaldson lines it to left. That's over. Rosario off the wall. Donaldson is hustling towards second. Here's the throw. The head first shot. He's in there. Josh Donaldson, another 2-hit game. He's been on base 4 times tonight.
Here's another extra base hit for Josh Donaldson also, and another double for the Blue Jays. It's 9-3. You think he's going to Cadillac anything? No, he's going to go all out. This ball hit over the head of Rosario. And Donaldson was thinking double as soon as that ball left his bat. You can see him take off, and he said, I'm going to get in the scoring position. And watch this slide. Beautiful.
His 59th extra base hit of the season. He is 5 ahead of the Twins' second baseman, Brian Dozier. Bautista takes a strike. It's 1-1. Edwin Encarnacion has 4 RBIs tonight. He has 64 for the season. He's just 1 ribby out of the top 10. That would give the Blue Jays 3 hitters in the top 10 in American League RBI race. The Yankees have 2. Mark Teixeira has 76 ribbies, and Brian McCann, the catcher, has 65.
Somebody's got to drive him in, right? Blue Jays have scored a ton of runs this year. But it's been a balanced attack, I think, up and down the lineup for Toronto.
1-2 to Bautista. He takes a fastball, strike 3. 2 outs. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Last night the Red Sox won the game 2-1. Tonight the pitching matchup, CC Sabathia went 6 innings, allowed 3 hits, just a single run, and he punched out 8. Eduardo Rodriguez, the young lefty for Boston, has allowed 2 runs on 6 hits through 7. The Yankees have gone to their bullpen. Sabathia out of the game. Justin Wilson, the left-hander, is in the game now. Edwin Encarnacion has extended his hit streak to 9 straight. He did it in his first at bat, had an RBI double, then hit a 2-run home run in the 3rd, was walked in the 5th, and had an RBI single in the 6th. That ball ran up and in, and Encarnacion's behind 1-2. Edwin had a 5 RBI game against Texas in June. This is the first 4 RBI game he's had. He's got a chance to match that with Donaldson at second.
Seems like whenever he is the DH, the swing just seems a little bit better, doesn't it? I don't know if he's had a chance to go up in between at bats and work on things, but he just seems a little bit more comfortable.
Ball in the dirt. Suzuki with a nice block. Well, Encarnacion had some shoulder problems early in the season, and that really hindered his swing. But now he's got everything working, and what a good time to get hot.
Right when the Blue Jays really need him. He's kind of hitter, you know, when he starts hitting all those home runs and driving in all those runs, where he hits in the lineup, he can carry the offense.
Line drive down the left field line, but that's going to hook foul. Donaldson was around third, but Encarnacion may have hit it toward the end of the bat, and that's why it hooked foul.
That looked like another off-speed pitch, and I think he caught it off the end of the bat. What that does is it makes your hands go a little numb. You can see him working that right hand on the barrel of the bat. Another changeup from one of the pitchers. That one right off the end of the bat. Yeah, he felt it.
Yeah, that bat vibrates in your hand and acts like bee sting. May will strike out to side. Donaldson with a one-out double, but May strikes out 3. Bo Schultz looks like he's going back out for the night. By the 2015 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row, and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
You know, we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're going to take the R out of drive, and we're going to call this the dive of the game. Kevin Pillar dives and makes a heck of a catch to end the 8th inning. He's been doing it all season long. Kevin Pillar tonight gets the dive of the game as Bo Schultz cheers him on.
Kevin Pillar never lets his guard down, no matter how it's going for him at the plate. He continues to be a terrific two-way player. And he made up his mind that ball wasn't going to get down, and he dove for it and took extra bases and saved a run for Bo Schultz. We've reached the 9th. The Blue Jays trying to wrap up a terrific homestand. With a win tonight, they'll go to 8-2 for the 10 games. They split the first 2 games with the Phillies, won 3 of 4 against Kansas City, and are on the verge of sweeping the Twins for the first time in Blue Jays franchise history in a 4-game series.
Get a little momentum before you head out onto the road. 3 big games against the Yankees, and then right back here.
The Twins in danger of falling to 500 for the first time since they were 12-12 early in April. Foul ball. Twins coming out of the All-Star break, just the opposite of what the Blue Jays have done since the break. And they are in danger of falling to 1-8 in their last 9 road games.
Doesn't get any easier for them either. From here, they're going to Cleveland, and they got to face that pitching staff.
They will face Cody Anderson, Trevor Bauer, and Corey Kluber in the 3-game series in Cleveland. Irvin Santana will start the 2nd game in Cleveland. The Blue Jays faced him in the opener on Monday afternoon. Poof. Bounces it to Donaldson. He has to back up. Reaches back for a little extra. Oh, what a scoop at first. Justin Smoke is one of the best in the business at digging out those low throws, and he saved Donaldson an error. Terrific effort over at first by Smoke.
Gives ground, sets his feet, and he is picked up by his first baseman on the other end. What a pick by Smoke. Donaldson's got plenty of arm, but this one's into the ground, and he loves it. Smoke picks him up.
Aaron Hicks homered, batting right-handed back in the 7th. That came off of Mark Burley. Burley gave up 2 home runs tonight. Hits it to Smoke. He will flip to Schultz. 2 down.
For a limited time, get Rogers Internet 30 plus basic TV bundle for $62.97 per month for the first 3 months. Find out how. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1. $34,847 have witnessed something magical over this 10-game homestand. It's a brand new ball game for the Blue Jays.
Front office reinvigorated this team with the trades, and it's really caught on, I think, throughout Canada. The players can feel it, the coaches can feel it, and now the fans can really feel it. Something special is happening here.
The Twins have 20 hits in 4 games. They've scored 12 runs in the 4 games. And they're on the verge of being swept in the 4-game series. This should do it. Ben Revere, the left fielder, waits on it. That's the ball game. First time in franchise history, the Blue Jays have swept the 4-game series from the Twins.
You know, they do it again early in this ball game. They jump out 4-0, the big bat. Well, then when Encarnacion certainly helped that with a 2-run home run. Mark Burley, magical once again as he wins this ball game, and you can see up to date American League East. Blue Jays are getting closer.
They're getting closer indeed, and the Blue Jays outscored their opponents 59-34 on this homestand, and they out-homered the 3 teams 16-5 in the 10 games.
They took care of business here at home. They took the 3 out of 4 from Kansas City and then swept Minnesota, who's been down a little bit, and now get some of that momentum and take it into New York, that big series against the Yankees coming up.
Should be fun tomorrow night. Make sure you check it out. We'll be there first of 3 against the Yankees. Blue Jays trying to cut into that Yankee lead. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night from the Bronx. Stay tuned. Sportsnet Central coming up. Ken Reed and Ivanka Osbeck. Take it away.